Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon. Today our guest is Sara, the VP of Sales at ChartMogul. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining our podcast, Sara. At first, please tell us what is ChartMogul.
Yeah, so ChartMogul is nearly a 10-year-old business. We are a B2B SaaS platform that has both subscription analytics and CRM. And so essentially, founders all over the world are using our suite of products to grow recurring revenue. Most people know ChartMogul for SaaS metrics. We help calculate things like monthly recurring revenue, lifetime value, retention, cohorts. But about a year ago and change, we also introduced a CRM that's specifically designed for B2B SaaS businesses. And so instead of swivel sharing between your CRM and your analytics solution, you have an all-in-one place where you can analyze recurring revenue and drive those outcomes using our CRM capabilities.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. What did you say are the biggest problems that you solve for your customers?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that as your SaaS business grows, the way you bill your customers changes over time. Maybe you use Stripe when you get started and you launch on Product Hunt, but in some years' time, you've got customers that want to pay via wire or ACH, and you're not going to say no to that money. And so, the vast majority of SaaS businesses have many billing sources, and aggregating and normalizing all of that data to calculate accurate SaaS metrics that you can then present to investors with a good degree of confidence is really challenging. And instead of fooling around in an Excel spreadsheet trying to figure that out on your own, we're the productized solution to that. And so we help, customers, articulate their growth, their retention, raise funds, and report on the health of the business.
And what would you say are the most loved features of the product?
For those that use it effectively, segmentation. Christoph Jans has this really great quote. He says, if you fail to segment your customers, you may end up underselling yourself to investors, or worse yet, make bad decisions by looking at aggregate numbers on the whole. And so my favorite customers are kind of diving into the data and they're saying, okay, do we actually have more growth inflection with this customer segment or this geography or this sort of slice or dice of the customer base? So segmentation is definitely a big one for sure.
And can you share some success stories, some of them on how you helped those companies achieve X, Y, or Z?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one story that comes to mind is an Irish business, and I had met with their partnerships lead some years ago, and he said, Sarah, I'm having a really hard time justifying the value of the partner program to our executive leadership team. And I said, cool, well, let's take a look at what that is in ChartMogul. And we went through the process of identifying all of their customers where the partner program was involved. And what we saw is that those customers, the business was able to retain at 20% higher than the rest of their customer base. And now sort of with a single link, this person was now able to say, hey, look, here's the value of the partner program. When a partner is involved, our retention is much higher. So, I mean, that's just one small example, but, solved a problem for an individual person and, helped build a division or department that was healthy for the business.
Who is the right fit for ChartMogul and when do they need a solution like this?
Yeah, so our ideal customer profile is B2B SaaS businesses that are doing anywhere between 1 and 100 million in ARR or annual run rate. And so we find that most people get started on something either very simplistic or maybe Excel. You don't need a reporting solution to report on 10 customers. But if you've got 100 customers who are on monthly, quarterly, annual plans, then it starts to get a little bit more complex. So you really need a solution like ChartMogul when the customer count volume is high, or you need that segmentation capabilities to say, okay, well, we're trying to figure out what our ICP is, and we need different ways to look at all of these metrics across these different dynamics.
And it works for both companies that have, let's say, an ICP of SMBs, but also enterprises.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, that's great. How about the integrations? Can you name a few?
Sure. So Stripe, Braintree, Recurly, PayPal, QuickBooks, Xero, Paddle, those are just the ones that come to mind first. There's billing integrations, because the way in which ChartMogul works is we ingest all of your customer and billing data and we transform it into the SaaS metrics that we know subscription businesses care about. But we also have integrations with other commercial tools like Intercom, Slack, and HubSpot. So if you want to enrich your data and you want to say, okay, well, my Stripe data is interesting because it tells me my MRR, but maybe you want to look at MRR by lead source, and that data is in something like HubSpot. And so when you connect both HubSpot and Stripe to ChartMogul, you can now see MRR by lead source, for example.
Nice.
And then we also have this concept of data destinations, because we don't want you to be beholden to ChartMogul. Sure, it's great, you can log in and you can analyze things, but what happens when you want to send that data elsewhere? And so we have data destinations so that you can send your data to Slack. You can have a weekly revenue update with all your SaaS metrics for the team, or you can send your data to a data warehouse, S3, Amazon Redshift, BigQuery, so that you can sort of do further analyses beyond what ChartMogul's web app is capable of.
Thank you for that. How about the market? How competitive is it, and how is ChartMogul different than the rest?
Yeah, I mean, I've been at ChartMogul for a long time now, and so the market's changed. I've been here for nearly 6 years.
Okay.
And so what we find is that the biggest competitive threat to our business is business intelligence software. And so if you're a business that has 80 million in ARR, you probably have a data engineering and analytics team of, I don't know, maybe 5, 10 people, sort of depending on what kind of business you are. And so sometimes what happens to us is, those businesses will say, actually, we want to use Looker or Tableau or Power BI because we're already paying for it. And so we'll just ask, George and Tony, our data engineers, to build these same reports that exist in ChartMogul. And so that's sort of, one competitive threat that is top of mind for me. But interestingly, we have a lot of folks that try to go that route and they realize, it's actually quite challenging. And they come back and they reactivate. Reactivation is more than 10% of our revenue added in any given time period, because it's really hard. You've got to deal with things like discounts, refunds, currency fluctuations, proration. And so, is it the best use of your data engineer or analyst time to try to figure out a churn calculation when there's a productized solution that does it and does it well?
Yeah. I'm curious about the CRM feature. Did you add it as an add-on, like an extra feature, or is it something that's included to all the customers?
Yeah, so CRM is a standalone product. You don't necessarily need to use our analytics product in order to use our CRM, but you probably should.
Yeah.
And so, we went live with the CRM product in April of last year, and I was a little anxious. It's like a really mature software market, and I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, but I've been pleasantly surprised. We're actively migrating folks off of CRMs like HubSpot or Pipedrive, and so the big draw is it's an all-in-one solution. And so instead of having to look at Looker and HubSpot, ChartMogul has the full view to include the opportunities that your sales team's working on, etc.
For sure. Are you familiar with the founding story? Can you share it?
Of ChartMogul?
Yes.
Sure.
And then I want to hear your story of joining the company 6 years ago, you said?
Yeah, just about. So our founder is a person called Nick Franklin. Nick is really fantastic to work with. He built ChartMogul in part because he was an early employee at Zendesk, and he was managing EMEA and APAC operations to include reporting on SaaS metrics for the business using Salesforce. And so the idea to have, a Stripe analytics product and then Braintree was sort of born. It sounds like he, taught himself a little bit of Ruby and got together with some Upwork developers, and then, came to market with something around about the same time as Baremetrics. And so we weren't first to market, but we came to market first with I think a few more integrations, and that's definitely helped our business service, a larger market. And we've just been banging the subscription analytics drum for 10 years. I mean, it's crazy.
That's amazing. And how about you joining the company?
Well, it's kind of a funny story because when I was living in the US, I live in Germany now, but when I was living in the US, I was working for a services business. And that services business said, you know what would be cooler than services revenue? Recurring revenue. And they had this idea to build a product on the Salesforce App Exchange market.
Hmm.
This is kind of a long story, but I think it's interesting.
Please.
And so, the chief product officer said, okay, Sarah, why don't you build reporting in Salesforce so that we can see expansion, contraction, and churn on this new SaaS product that we built? And so I didn't really know how to do that. And I ran a bunch of searches. And what I found was ChartMogul's resources on how to calculate MRR. And so fast forward a couple of years, I moved to Germany for love, etc. And then someone at ChartMogul reached out to me and they said, hey, are you interested in this job? And I was like, I've seen this before. Like, what is this? And so it was very full circle for me professionally to join the team.
That's great. And you actually faced this problem.
Yeah, exactly.
How big is the team now?
We are, let me check.
Yeah, just in big lines, not exact number.
66.
That's
66.
great. And did the money raise any funding, or is it a bootstrapped business?
We did raise a little bit of money a long time ago, 3.7 million in venture capital from Point Nine, Alvin, and a few other folks. As you can imagine, that money is spent many times over, and so we feel almost like a bootstrap business in some ways. Like the ambitions and the ideas, are certainly supported by our institutional investors, but the leadership team kind of drives a lot of the strategy together.
And you're sure that you found product market fit?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah, that's great. What would you say was your biggest challenge since joining the company?
Every year has been a little different.
Oh, what was the initial position that you joined? You joined as the VP of sales?
Oh no, gosh, no. So I actually joined as a revenue operations lead. And on my second day, Nick said, hey, build a forecast. And I took one look at the CRM and I said, I can't build a forecast. You do not have the required data needed to build a forecast. Would you like to implement a new CRM? And so that was my first project. And then, that's something I have a lot of experience with. So I really enjoyed that. And then, of course, we implemented ChartMogul CRM, which our team's been using to a good degree of success for some years.
And what was the journey from revenue operations to VP of sales?
Yeah, so I inherited a lot of responsibility quickly because I think if on my second day they said build a forecast model, on the third day the woman that hired me said, by the way, I'm leaving. And then she was the head of marketing. And so I took over her responsibilities and I was sort of like Sarah, sales and marketing. And marketing at the time, like it wasn't what it is today. Like it was just me writing some blog posts and sending like a weekly newsletter. Now we have an 8-person marketing team. And so for some years I sort of managed a small sales team, managed a little bit of content strategy. And then at some point I kind of raised my hand and said, hey, I think I should focus on, what I know I'm good at, which is sales. And we hired a really fabulous VP of marketing who's built that out. And now the lead volume since she started have actually doubled, which I don't know how she does it. Generating demand is really hard.
And what did you say is the most successful go-to-market strategy for you today? I guess it's a split, right? But if you can share some channels that work for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think word of mouth works reasonably well for us. We have in ChartMogul the ability to download and share a chart. And so if you open up Twitter or you go onto LinkedIn, you'll see ChartMogul charts kind of floating around because
That's great.
bootstrap founders are really excited about hitting different milestones and want to celebrate with their community.
Yeah.
So that's been, I think, a really good boon for us. And another strategy that's been working reasonably well is our data-backed content, excuse me. And so we sit on this aggregate anonymized data. We have a small data insights and analyst team, and they produce these benchmark reports, which sometimes share interesting things about the industry, and that's definitely a good opportunity for us to get some new trial signups and social shares.
For sure. How do you see the SaaS community growing? You've been in the past 6 years, probably more, and we've experienced a massive boom. But I'm curious to know from your perspective. You also attend many SaaS conferences, so you have the insights.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. We've seen each other in how many countries now? At least 4, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested in SaaS communities, maybe lesser known geographies growing. I had the pleasure of going to SaaStanac earlier this year, which was in Zagreb, and it just had this really remarkable energy of, people who they can't get to the Bay Area for community. And so it was kind of like builders and makers and creative people in a geography that I didn't have a lot of familiarity with, sharing their learnings. And so maybe we'll see more of that as it seems to be a trend of fewer large scale events and sponsorships, and potentially some smaller get-togethers and workshops where people are, working alongside of one another and sort of looking over each other's desks and saying, oh, like, what AI tool is that? Should I be using it? So we'll see.
What is the vision for the future of ChartMogul?
Yeah, I mean, making a CRM really sing. We released it like just a year ago, and so it's going to take us some time to realize the full vision of what it is that we want. And so the mission is still really just the same as day one, although perhaps with a bit more maturity. Is like, how can we help founders grow recurring revenue faster with these two products together? And so, nothing terribly monumental or big, other than just continuing this rate of innovation. And of the 66 of us, gosh, like 45 are in product and engineering. So I'd credit quite a lot of our success to investing heavily in product, and we'll just continue to do that.
And you work with so many founders worldwide. I'm curious to know if you have any piece of advice for a starting founder.
Yeah, I mean, sales isn't that scary, but yeah, I think when I talk about that data-backed content, what we see is that just 13% of SaaS businesses ever hit this $10 million ARR mark in a 10-year period. And so that might sound a little bleak, but it takes a long time to build meaningful and lasting business. And also what we see in the data is that the fastest way to 10 million in ARR is by increasing customer count. And so I talk to a lot of founders who are worried about, how should I price or package this? And the truth is, that most all SaaS businesses are underpriced in early days, but I think like velocity and fun, is sort of required to get through the slogs that is building a business. And so that kind of perspective is sort of what I try to share with founders who are maybe just getting started.
This is really helpful. And from your perspective, you probably know so many SaaS companies, but do you have a favorite software tool that you use? Or you can do a top 3 if you cannot decide, but one would be the minimum.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying using this Fixer AI piece of software in my personal and my professional life. It auto drafts emails that it realizes I need to respond to, and I'm impressed that the tone really nails it. So if I email a business contact, the signature is regards or best, whatever. If I email an old friend from college, it's like something I think I would authentically say. So I'm not sure how it manages that. that's one. And then the other I really like is now I'm gonna seem super uncool. I don't know how you say it. It's N8N. Do you know?
N-A-N?
N8N? Is it
No?
Nathan? Is it N8N? It's an automation tool that we're using in place of Zapier.
Okay.
And a lot of the automations and routings and efficiencies that we've built are reliant on N8N. And so that one I can recommend as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I guess those are my main questions. If you have anything else to share on today's episode, but
No,
people
I mean,
can already find you at all the software conferences. They can reach out on LinkedIn and they can find great statistics on ChartMogul, right?
yeah, for sure they can. I mean, they're welcome to look at the benchmark data that if you sign up, they're refreshed on the first of the month. And so if you like, what's interesting about the benchmark data is it's very temporal. So it responds to what's going on in the market. And so if you're feeling like August is slow and you want to see how that, you compare to a cohort of peers on September 1st, there'll be more data that you can check out for free. So yeah, I mean, we cruised through quite a lot, but I hope it was all right. And I really, again, appreciate you inviting me on.
Thank you so much, Sarah. You did great. Thank you.
Awesome. Take care.